Welcome to Create, Build, Manage, the Entrepreneur's Toolbox.
Welcome to Create, Build, Manage on BizTV. I'm Kelli Phillips. This season of Create, Build, Manage is brought to you by Thought Leader. Today we have two great guests lined up for you. Tina Luckett challenges us to cultivate deeper, more fulfilling connections in both personal and professional areas of our life. And Dr. Eugene Choi can help us all achieve and maintain peak performance in high-stress environments. Stick around. We'll be right back with more Create, Build, Manage from Thought Leader. What type of friend you are? Well, Tina Luckett can help you create and build better, stronger, healthier relationships with some of the most important people in your life. Say hello to Tina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into friendships and helping people build stronger relationships.
I have been married for 35 years. I have two amazing daughters who are engineers. One grandson. I have served 6 years in the Army. I wrote 3 bestseller books with a 4th coming out later this month. And I added public speaking to my resume. But I got into friendships because I was having so many issues with my friends. And I decided if I'm having issues, so are other people. So I wrote a book about it.
What inspired you to be an author? I mean, just to go out and figure out what's wrong with your friends and how to make them better and how to have stronger relationships. You took it to a new level and became an author about it.
So when I was younger, as a child, I was always good with English. I loved writing. I loved grammar. And I used to write these short stories. But I would never let anyone read them. I just kept them all to myself. So my family started telling me that, hey, you're a good storyteller, that you really need to start letting people read your work and stop being afraid and just put out the information. So I got over my fear. I decided to take some time and I just started writing about the problems I was having with my friends.
So is that primarily what you write about, is friendships?
I actually write fiction and nonfiction. So I wrote my series of books is called The Sweet Teas. So it's the Sweet Tea Society, the Sweet Tea Nemesis, and then the book that's coming out later in the year is going to be The Sweet Tea Courtship. And that group of books is about wealthy women who go to these sweet tea parties. And they decided to invite a person from like the Detroit area. Mm-hmm. So Trina decides, she comes to the meetings. She loves it. She's around wealthy billionaires and she's using what she's learning for her good. But then she realized that these ladies who has everything are not happy, that their husbands are not nice to them. So she shows them how to get some of that control back. And in turns, they're, now they no longer look at Trina as a charity case. They're treating her like, like they like her. So Trina wanted the ladies to actually come to her home for one of the tea parties. And they didn't think it was a good idea. They didn't want to, go in the Detroit area. But 3 of the women snuck over. They loved her apartment. They loved their house. I mean, they just loved being there. But something happens. So now the 3 ladies had to use their resources and Trina's street smarts to get out alive. So that's how that book came along.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So your 4th book is about to come out?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that.
Trina is, right, thank you. Yeah, it's at the end of the year.
So besides being a best-selling author, you're also a motivational speaker. What do you speak about?
So I speak about connection. I would like people to learn to connect, Because if you think about it, social media platforms are supposed to bring us together, but they're actually making us isolated, and we're not connecting like we used to. People are not calling each other like they used to. Their lives are much busier. And I feel that because we're not connecting, mental health is going up, is on the rise. You have isolation is on the rise. Our communication skills are decreasing. And this is not good for our society right now.
So what can we do as a society? Because I think if we continue down the path that we're on, it's going to be not a world that anyone's going to want to live in.
So we need to learn to connect, to just stop what we're doing and just make time, because you never know what people are going through. And you never know when that person or your friend or their family member just need to hear from someone. So in turns, I created this challenge called Connect the Triangle. Mm-hmm. And it's a simple task that anyone can make time for. If you think about it, you will draw a triangle, right? Mm-hmm. And on those 3 lines, you will write a person's name, and it could be anyone that you want to reconnect with, or a person you haven't talked to in a while, and then just make time to call, text, or even visit. And within that next week, do the same thing, make another triangle over that smaller one, and just keep it going for about a month. And at the end of that month, just look at your sheet and see how many people that you actually reconnected with, how many people that you actually might have just made their day just by contacting them and letting them know that they was on your mind.
That seems like a very simple thing to do. Do you have people that still make excuses and don't complete that triangle? And if so, what advice do you have for them?
Of course, people are not going to follow, what you tell them to do. But once I explained to say, hey, look, it's all about connecting. You have to stop and make that time, because you never know when you might even save someone's life. Because today, the way everything's going, even after the pandemic, if that haven't taught us anything more about connecting and just calling each other, mm-hmm. then nothing will. So I just break it down and say, hey, we just have to make time, because if we keep on this path, it's not going to be good for us in the long run.
So what's the worst thing that can happen to us, Tina? You probably have some insight there.
So some of the worst things could happen is, of course, mental health is still going up. We have your self-esteem is go down. Our confidence level is going down. Even if you think about the opportunity to grow and learn, we're not connecting with each other. And if we're not connecting with each other, how are we able to learn and grow from each other?
Everybody has a cell phone these days. And you even said, maybe it's just reaching out to somebody with a text. How important is it for that face-to-face or actually talking to somebody? And what good can that bring people?
That's very important, because that interaction, that connection, where you can see that person and you can see what they're going through, and just having that, to just know that you're not alone. We all need that. Like we all need to, we was born to be, together and not apart.
You talked about your connect the triangles as the person who is actually, doing that and doing triangles every single day. And if you do that for a month, what do you as an individual get out of that?
So you get to feel like you actually did your part.
Do you become a better friend to people once you have expanded your network?
Yeah, you become a better friend. You become a better family member. You just become a better person, because you set aside time to do your part to help others come be connected.
Tina, if folks want to hear you speak or want to read your books, how do they find you? How do they get in touch with you?
So they can go to my website. It's TinaLuckettAuthor.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Tina Luckett 7.
And if people want to book you for a speech, they can do it there as well, right?
Yes, on my website, there's a form that says Hire Tina, and that's where you can go to hire me.
Well, keep up the great work, and we look forward to your future projects. Tina Luckett today. Thanks, Tina. Our next guest created a unique science-backed process that teaches leaders how to activate their executive brain. Here with more is Dr. Eugene Choi. And Dr. Choi, if you could give us a little background on you.
Yeah, so I had a bit of a journey, a lot of transitions, but I have a healthcare background. So I was a clinical pharmacist by trade, and I've made multiple transitions. I went into the filmmaking world. That's how I got my marketing experience creating viral content. How do you take an idea and get it shared? And that eventually led to the business coaching world, where I was able to leverage my new marketing experience. I got mentored by a CEO of a really big business. And that's how I got my business coaching experience. And my healthcare background came full circle because I was able to use neuroscience to be able to teach about how to get your brain to perform at its best, especially in high stress environments and scenarios.
So tell me a little bit about how you do that, because we're all under stress a lot of our lives, but you figured out a way how we can achieve and perform at a high level even under all the stress.
Exactly. Yeah. So based on the research, we're under stress for about 70% of our adult lives. And literally what happens in the brain is your critical thinking centers shut off, your empathy is turning off, your creativity is turning off, because your brain actually thinks its life is in danger. And the research behind this is because research has shown that emotional pain can be just as painful as physical pain. Mm-hmm. So your brain actually reacts to it as if it was a threatening situation. So this latest science can show how do you turn on that executive brain at will so that you can stay calm in these high stress scenarios and you maintain access to your brain's higher functions.
Okay, I'm all ears. How do we do that?
Yeah. So number one, it starts with awareness. So if we're in survival state for about 70% of our adult lives, we need to know what it even looks like. So it's very obvious if your life's in actual danger. It only knows how to do one of three things. It's called a fight, flight, or freeze response. And you're either going to pick up a weapon to fight, run for your life in flight, or play dead in a sense and freeze up. Your nervous system freezes up. But most people don't realize what this looks like in an emotional survival scenario.
So how can you help them?
So you have to be able to start spotting it first. So awareness is key. If you're not aware of it, you don't have the power to change it. So what does an emotional fight response look like? It looks like the need to be right, the need to prove yourself, people pleasing, perfectionism. And all of these things are actually a fight response, especially if your ego has gotten hurt or there's some sort of pain from your past. And we tend to fight more by trying to accomplish more. Flight looks like when we numb ourselves, for example. And there's no judgment around any of this, but some people numb themselves by overindulging in things like food, alcohol, sex, drugs, even to the point of addiction. It's just important to be aware of these things. And the freeze response looks like when we're overwhelmed, we don't take action. So this is why there's no such thing as laziness, because what someone might judge as lazy, there's probably a chronic freeze response in their nervous system going on that they're dealing with. So we need to be able to spot that first. And the moment you spot it, it's kind of like when someone points out a piece of broccoli in your teeth. You have to become aware of it to be able to have the power to remove it. Mm-hmm. So it starts with awareness, and then it's a process of training and implementation. So you train yourself on the science. How do I start activating this executive state? And there's a lot of tools for that, whether it's breathing, mindfulness. There's one tool that I mentioned that's called labeling your emotions, because UCLA did a study where they showed people pictures of faces that are in survival state, anger, anything that feels uncomfortable, anger, stress, frustration, anxiety. And in the brain scans, the survival state brain immediately lit up when they saw the pictures. But then they asked them, hey, can you tell me what you're seeing, what emotion you're seeing in this photo? And the moment they said, hey, that's anger, that's anxiety, the executive state brain turned on and the survival state brain turned off, because you can only be in one or the other. And the reason for this is when you're in survival, when you're in a life-threatening scenario, your brain literally can't think, because thinking can mean the difference between life or death if you spend that time thinking. So labeling your emotions, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling anxious, are one of many tools to start activating this executive center of your brain.
So our viewers that are watching, how do we get them to that point and then reprogram their brain and how they react in those situations?
Exactly. So this is where the rubber hits the road, because research shows that by the time we're about 35 years old, 90 to 95% of the brain becomes subconscious. What does that mean? It's on autopilot. You're not going down the stairs anymore going, I need to put my left foot forward, my right foot forward. You can do it without thinking, but most people don't realize it's the same thing with our thoughts. We think 70,000 thoughts a day. 90 to 95% of those thoughts are the same thoughts as the day before. And a lot of these thoughts are negative thoughts about yourself that trigger survival state. It's the same with feelings. We get used to a feeling, just like a drug addict can get used to a drug. You get used to feelings because it's chemicals happening in your body, whether it's stress, anxiety, frustration. So we want to be able to reprogram that. And that takes work and repetition by practicing.
Now, is this something that you train? And if so, where do you train and how do people find out more?
Yeah, so I started an online community and course called Neurohacking School, and it shows the science, and we meet once a month live to go over all of that, address any questions so that you can continue to develop the skill to get yourself out of survival. Because if it's even a little bit less than 70% of our adult lives, that's more creativity you're accessing. That's more critical thinking centers that you're accessing. And the big one for me is empathy. Your brain is not empathetic. It creates transactional relationships versus authentic ones. We use people. So even if it's a percentage less, it's very transformative.
So have you seen a definite change in people, even such as yourself?
It was transformative for me. One of the things I share that's a heartfelt story is it hit me that I was using my family a lot of times because I was in the survival state. I was in a fight response to try to prove myself, so to speak, as someone that's worthy or important. The thing that hit me was, oh my gosh, for a lot of my relationship, I was using my family because I was in survival. And how did I know this is true? I would claim that I do all these nice things because I love them. But when we get into arguments, what's the defense that I use? Hey, I do this and this for you. Why don't you do that and that for me?
Oh.
Why was I keeping track? Why was I keeping track of that? It's because of my survival state. It was creating a transactional relationship. So it deepened my relationships. It helped my productivity go up. It helped my business grow. And I've tested this with hundreds and hundreds of business leaders and entrepreneurs now and watched it take effect simply from learning the science.
So it sounds like this is something that you're passionate about. I mean, you've had all these various backgrounds from, the pharmacy side, from the video side, from the marketing side. But is this what your passion is, what you're doing now and helping others?
1,000%. Sharing this work and providing the coaching and the support for people. I found this is the mission I'm willing to die for now. I left behind a very successful career in pharmacy because of it.
So where do you want this to go from here?
I want to be able to share this work and get it out to as many people as possible, because if we learn something like this, we would be able to create more collaborative efforts. We'd be able to create so much more results. Even if that percentage, like we were saying earlier, of survival state goes a little bit less, that's more critical thinking centers that are going on for leaders. And when we're in a survival state, it causes a lot of divisiveness because your brain needs black and white thinking. Because if you're in a life-threatening scenario, right, you need quick answers. You don't need gray area. And I think this is one of the sources of suffering in the world. If you think about it, it's two parties that are in black and white thinking, attacking the other party in a fight response or avoiding them in a flight response. And no one's willing to meet in the middle. We're literally trying to attack the other party or run away from them. And it's just causing more divisiveness. So that's why it means a lot to me to get this work as much to much people out there as possible.
Do you find people are willing to accept the help and accept the fact that they go into these three different modes? Is that something you point out?
Yeah, I share about it. I don't force it upon anyone. But when people learn it, they tend to connect the dots, honestly. And I've seen it get the gears turning. And that's when they want to take the next steps to changing it.
Fascinating. We appreciate you being with us today, and hopefully more people. Where can they find you?
You can join my community at neurohackingschool.com, or you can follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram as well at Eugene K. Choi.
All right, Dr. Choi, thanks so much for your information this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining me today for BizTV's Create, Build, Manage from Thought Leader. Do you have a message that you want to get out into the world? Thought Leader has helped many aspiring motivational speakers land TEDx talks, from their virtual talk practice club to speaker certifications and TEDx-style coaching. Thought Leader will help get your message out into the world where it belongs. For more information, visit thought-leader.com. Stay tuned to BizTV for more stories that educate, enlighten, and empower.